Welcome everyone. My name is Rick Quezada and I'm the Director of Cultural Preservation. I've been working here for the Pueblo for about a little over 35 years. I was assigned the position of the directorship here at the museum in 2016. I hold an MA in history. My research is based on old Spanish colonial archives in regards to the New Mexico Pueblos, but in particular to Ysleta del Sur Pueblo. Some of my writings have been on the forced migration from the Pueblo of Ysleta to the El Paso area after the 1680 Pueblo revolt. As a Director of Cultural Preservation, my long-term goals for cultural preservation and sustainability is the preservation and the protection of our language. Indigenous languages are very, very endangered here in the United States, and Tiwa is no exception. I feel that by protecting our language, we will enable the youth to feel a sense of pride that they can still speak the language of their ancestors. The status of the language today and some of the techniques that we're implementing to be able to sustain and preserve and protect the language. We've been able to develop a couple of language classes. One of the language classes is lectured or given by Richard Hernandez. He is the most fluent tribal member here at the Pueblo. He gives 2 language lesson classes, one on Tuesdays and the other one on Thursdays. As a language speaker myself, I give language classes to the community on Saturdays, 45-minute classes. I keep it pretty much simple. The 45 minutes entail 15 minutes of culture, 15 minutes of history, and then the final 15 minutes are on language. The way we are approaching language preservation here at the Pueblo is we have a teach the teacher idea where we are developing 3 new Tiwa speakers here at the Pueblo, and we provide intense instruction. We hold classes with a linguistic anthropologist out of UCLA where we break down the language and we piece it all together, and we then move forward, and what we learn is what we teach to the community. My staff supports the cultural needs and knowledge of youth and members by providing opportunities to participate in lectures, historical lectures, in providing opportunities for tribal members to be able to participate in the crafts. We hire a tribal member who gives lessons on pottery making and pottery painting. His name is Albert Alvidres. He is a former governor of the Pueblo, and he is probably the authority in both pottery and pottery painting here at the village. He gives an in-depth history lesson of the art to the youth and to anybody who wants to participate in his workshops. We also provide language classes here at the Pueblo. The youth also, we support them by teaching them the social dances, which are the buffalo dance, the basket dance, the ribbon, the two-step. And then finally we teach them how to make Indian bread, traditional Indian bread in the beehive ovens that the cultural center has or at the courtyard. The way we support YDSP departments and corporations is through history lessons, lectures, talks. It is very important for the staff here at the cultural center to give the tribe's interpretation of the history here, a look at our history through our lens, the survival and the maintenance of our culture and language and history throughout the 300 years that we've been here are very, very important. And we convey those messages through walking tours of traditional properties, lectures done here at the Cultural Center, lectures, historical lectures done at employee staff meetings, things of that nature. Telling the story is a way of protecting our history. How do I envision the state of the Cultural Center 10, 20, or 50 years from now? The way I envision it is a cultural center that strives to protect and preserve the language of our people, of our ancestors. For me, the language is very, very important. All peoples are tied to their language. It tells our history, it tells our culture. And for us, the survival of our language is of the utmost importance. The other areas are the crafts, the traditional crafts of our people, traditional drum making, traditional silversmithing, traditional bow and arrow making programs, as well as weaving, bread making, but most importantly, sharing stories of the community to bring tribal members together, I think are very, very important. Sharing ideas, sharing customs, and sharing our culture with one another. Story that I learned from an ancestor or an elder. The story that comes to mind is the story of the winter people and the summer people. It's kind of like our clan system. The winter people were the hunters. They would hunt deer and rabbits in the mountain ranges, and the journey that they would take them about a couple of months to complete. They would hunt, the mountains at Hueco Tanks, Franklin Mountains, mountains in Juarez, mountains to the east of the Pueblo. They would harvest enough deer that would produce meat. They would also produce leather for moccasin making, for cloth making, or even drum making. And once they were done, they would come back to the village, and upon their arrival in the village, the summer people would also be finished with their crops. They had already harvested the corn, the beans, and the squash, and whatever they might have planted in that particular year. And they would basically settle down, enjoy the winter with plenty of food, and that's where they would share stories. They would share knowledge. The winter people would share stories of what they saw in the mines, who they met, who they fought with. The summer people would talk about the water and the river and the Rio Grande, how the crops grew, or how they didn't grow. And then they would come together and they would celebrate. And that's kind of one of the main stories that I remember, the winter people and the summer people, and how they worked together to keep the Pueblo united.